Hello, everyone, and I hope you're all well. My name is Tanner Dagenais, and I'm the host of Self-Sabotage Solutions. On this podcast, it's my opportunity and my pleasure to be able to share everything I know about self-sabotage, but also to be able to share other people's self-sabotage stories, because it's so important that we know that no matter who we are, where we come from, or what we have experienced in life, that we're all able to overcome self-sabotage. And so today, I'm very excited because we have Nathan Francis here on the show. He's a self-sabotage coach who works with teens and young adults and very excited to be able to have him on the show and hear his story. I've kind of actually seen some of it just from his Facebook posts, and really been enjoying your content. So very excited to be able to hear a little bit more about it. And can you just introduce yourself a little bit, and then we can go into your story?
I'm Nathan Francis. I'm from Australia, communist Victoria. Well, I don't really want to call it communist Victoria, but Victoria, about 2 hours north of Melbourne. I'm 28 years old, and I was the king of self-sabotage. So, yeah, we'll delve into that whenever you're ready.
Yeah, let's go right on into it. Yeah, thanks for the intro, and yeah, very excited to hear how you're the king of self sabotage.
uh, so, um, Pretty much my story was I was like your typical young Australian male. I was programmed to hide from my traumas and hide from my house and stuff that was going on in my personal life to just drink and party every weekend and chase girls and have casual sex and sort of like didn't really know what love was. I didn't love who I sort of loved who I was, but I didn't love the things that I was doing, the drinking and the casual sex. And I was really angry and had a lot of anger built up inside. And I just got to a boiling point at the end of the start of 2020 when all the COVID stuff happened. And I just thought, this is not what we're being told. So I sort of went down all the rabbit holes, and that sort of just like heightened my self-sabotage, really trying to deal with all of that as well, on top of my traumas and everything else that was going on. So it was sort of this time last year. I sort of like stopped drinking. So I was exercising excessively. Like I was running 50, 60K a week, riding 150K a week. Like I was just exercising so much because it was another way of escaping. So then this time last year, I looked myself in the mirror and said, I really need to clean myself up. I'm here for a more important reason than getting drunk and chasing girls every weekend. So down here in Victoria and Australia, the AFL is pretty big here. It's Australian rules football. The AFL grand final was this time last year. So I had one last crack on the alcohol and stuff. So I looked myself in the mirror before that night and said, this is my last night of doing what I was doing. So then I had that one big night, and then the next Sunday I woke up pretty hungover and sick. I looked myself in the mirror and said, that's it, no more. It's time to clean up now. It's time to man up, power up, be strong. Let's go. So then that following Monday, Jason Christoph did an interview with the podcaster here in Australia. I just happened to be on Facebook and just saw it. I watched it, and I ticked every single box of self-sabotage. I labeled myself as the king of it. The alcohol, the wealth, the like just everything. I was like, this is just me all over. Like I've always sabotaged good things in my life. It's time to do the opposite now. So then once I got into his work, listening to his podcast, reading his articles, seeing some people that can help me release my stuff I had going on, standing in my power, and that it was the coolest thing ever. And then in January, he advertised for his coaching school, and I was like, I have to do this. Like the work I've done on myself, I can really help others get their power back. Like it's the best work ever. It's like my passion now. Ever since then I've written a book. That's going to be published in the next few months about my journey and stuff. It's been an incredible ride for the last 12 months, and I can't wait for the rest of it. So yeah,
Wow,
there
that's
you go.
fantastic. Writing a
Yeah.
book and everything, and I think it's really cool that you've been able to like do this all at like a young age. I know I'm a young guy too, and everyone I talk to who's like the older generation, they're like, I wish I would have started earlier. I
Yeah.
would like I can't imagine like where I'd be now if I would have started earlier. So I think there's really good things coming for you.
Yep.
Um, but I'm interested to hear about like what made it so you could just stop. Because a lot of people like, tell themselves, like stop drinking alcohol. Because a lot of people are telling themselves, I'm gonna
Mm.
stop drinking alcohol, and like the next day they're like they find themselves with like a Coke and whiskey in their hand again, or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
another beer. So like, what do you think made it or allowed you to make that change? Was just like a something switched in your head? You were just done with you got fed up with it to a point or what?
Well, it was my intuition.
Mhm.
This little voice inside was telling me that I'm here for a more important reason than just doing what I was doing. So I don't know, forces beyond us, I feel, were pushing me to stop. We can talk about that if you want to. I don't know how spiritual we can go here, but
Yeah.
there's forces that I've tapped into now through some family members that have passed on that were encouraging me that, you need to clean up. And I just happened to listen. Like there was always things in my life that I've reflected back on. It's like they were always telling me, but I never listened. As soon as I listened to that voice, my life changed forever.
That's powerful. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think a lot of us kind of ignore that voice that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So, do you think it like what made it so you stopped ignoring that voice? It was just like you heard it and you're like, yeah, like maybe I should do this now, or did you saw some of Jason's content?
Yeah. So I tried to go to London at the start of 2021 just to escape again. I was a teacher, so I tried to go over there and teach. And then they brought in that, this thing. We won't talk about it. And then I was like, that intuition was playing up. Like I had my bags packed, ready to go, and as soon as it was time to go, I couldn't go. Like my stomach was just turning inside. I was crying. I'm like, I can't go. So that was the sort of the start of the intuition clicking on. It was telling me that you're here for a reason. You need to stay where you are. I didn't know what I was here for until this time last year. And then once you remember who you are and remember why you're here, mate, I ain't veering from this path anymore.
Hmm,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. Yeah. So
Yeah.
how so if the alcohol, I know that's was going on for a while. Um, were there times that you told yourself you wanted to stop, but you kept going anyways?
Great question. I was actually going to just go into that in a minute. Yeah, really good question. So, my old friends, they were drinking, gambling, watching sport, doing all the things males do, right? Um, when I turned 18 is our legal drinking age here. So when I turned 18, like I hadn't really drunk. I didn't drink much in high school. I didn't really do it. And then when I met these guys just through the school I was at, they were sort of doing it, partying and stuff. I thought, I might give this a go. I never really enjoyed it. But then as things happened in my personal life, it became an escape. Like I felt like I never really enjoyed drinking. It was sort of like, as Christoph calls it, the fake happy stuff. Like that's what I was doing. I was trying to chase that 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 inner happiness that through the bottle, I guess. I just realized that that's not the true happiness that we all want. You know, clean up yourself and live the life you want. That's your true happiness. So it took me a while to realize that, but I'm glad I did.
I totally agree with that. I think people are using like alcohol or other drugs kind of to like as like a solution to some kind of problem they have in their life or to
Yeah,
fill a
spot
void
on.
that they have. I know
Yeah,
I personally was with alcohol and marijuana for the longest time, so
yeah, yeah,
definitely relate to that.
yeah,
So you were also talking about how you're just kind of going through and have like sexual relations, and I know that's a whole big thing now, especially like with our generation, and like even
yeah.
the younger generation with like the whole Tinder and all that stuff. So I guess how did that really affect you, and then how has it changed now? Like are you found someone that you're kind of doing relationships with, or how does that look like?
So this is like my biggest form. This was my biggest form of self sabotage, and I wrote a blog about this only on Monday. So you know, they always say your first love hurts the most, but mine definitely did. Like I was so fixated on being with that girl, I sort of just isolated myself from my friends and family. Um, I was jealous when she was making plans with her friends and stuff. Like I was that program to be that jealous type. Once she went overseas on a trip of a lifetime and sort of left me here, that broke me. Like I was broken inside. I had a broken heart, and it sort of scarred me and closed me off from love. So that ignited my sabotaging, where I would have a nice girl come in, right? What would I do? I would either consciously or subconsciously sabotage that. So the ways I would do it was I would go and hook up with their best friend, or I would ghost them, that label, I just wouldn't talk to them again. Like once I realized how much of I'm probably going to swear here, but once I realized that I was a bit of a prick, and face that during my dark night of the soul, to forgive myself and to release that guilt and that shame, that's opening my heart back up to love. The last couple of weeks, I was downloading and re-downloading those apps. We were just talking about Tinder and that. It's like I don't need them to find love. Love will find me when I'm ready. And I realized that in the last week. So it's interesting that you asked that question because I'm probably supposed to answer it. But
Yeah,
yeah, no, I haven't found anyone. I am single, but I know when the time's right, the vibrational match will happen.
yeah, I love that. And I think it's important, like a lot of people to kind of like jump into a relationship before like they've even worked on themselves. And they
Yeah.
bring all those problems to the relationship, and then it's
Yeah.
a whole mess. So
It's interesting that we're the same age. So what's our program? Married with kids at what, 20, between 25 and 30? That's the program. Buy a house, start a family. Like that's our age levels programming. It's like you're in your late 20s, you're single. Like where's your life taking you is the program from the people out there. It's like this will happen when it's supposed to. It's like you deprogram yourself from that. And that was the sabotage stuff, really, isn't it? So
yeah, and actually, it's interesting you bring up the program because I actually had another question about that. You were talking
uh,
about how you were like programmed to be jealous. So where do you think that kind of programming came from?
straight from my parents. Straight from my parents, mate. Um, yeah. That was a program from my parents.
But
Um, I feel that all like our versions of love are all fabricated. Um, from our parents, from the TV, from like these mainstream podcasts and the radio and stuff. Like everyone's version of love is fabricated. We incarnate here for true, real love, and I feel like no one knows what true, real love is. But people like us are starting to learn what that is, and that's the most beautiful thing. That's how I
yeah,
see it.
I completely agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's interesting you bring up like the TV because a lot of people don't think like, oh, I watch the TV, but it doesn't have any effect on me. Um,
exactly.
so have you been watching the TV? Have you kind of cut that out of your life?
Well,
And if
I
you have, then why?
well I used to watch all the shows on Netflix, right? The lying, the cheating, the stealing. That's exactly how my life went. I'd watch, let's just have an example here. I don't know. Most shows have lying, cheating, and stealing in it, don't they? So that's what I was watching. So that's what I was doing. And then as soon as I cut that out, um, I wasn't lying, cheating, stealing anymore. Well, lying and cheating were probably the two I was doing. I probably wasn't stealing anything, but um, and then once I got onto Christoph, I stopped watching TV. So once I got onto Jason's work, we had a couple of sessions. He said, "Well, you can probably watch TV again now that you know what's going on, to write blogs on what they're putting out there to people." So I haven't really gone back into watching TV. I just can't watch anything, mate. Like it's just, yeah. But when I'm ready, I probably will do what Jason said and be like, let's just do a couple of blogs and just really make people aware of what they're actually putting out there for people. Because if you watch lying and cheating and stealing, well, how's your life going to turn out? You're being programmed to live that life, especially if you're watching it from a young age.
So many kids
Mm.
nowadays have like their tablets in their hand, like,
Oh, mate.
he's crying, he's distracted. Let's just give him a tablet, make him happy. You
Oh,
know?
I'm back in schools at the moment, just doing my old job, not teaching, but like after school programs. And it's what you just said is spot on. That's what I'm saying. It's just unbelievable.
Then we have like the TikTok now that's
Oh,
and
don't
like
get me
all these
started on
social
TikTok.
medias, yeah, all these social media is just so like hyperactive and like addictive. And
Yep.
you can just tell like the younger generation, and even just like the older generation in general, just like super addicted to it. Like, and
They are.
I've looked it through it for a couple moments, and I was like, well, I gotta turn this thing off. This thing is like
Yeah.
dangerous. Like,
Yeah. Look, what are they escaping from though?
Mhm.
It's like Yeah, I could go and watch some videos on how to build a life of my own, but no, I'm just going to go on TikTok and watch someone talk about bloody, I don't know, a piece of paper. Like, why? You know,
Yeah,
it's
I love
it's
that point.
insane the content that's out there.
Yeah, no, there is some really weird stuff out there.
Mm,
Um, I like that point of what you're talking about, like how you like what are they trying to escape from? Because I
mm,
think, like a lot of us are trying to escape from like that pain that we're feeling of like we're stuck
yeah,
in this life and like this is our life right now, but we
yep,
just choose to avoid it and sedate it. We
yep,
drink the
yeah,
alcohol so we don't think about it. We watch the TV all night so we don't think
yep,
about it. We binge
yep,
watch the Netflix or
yeah.
get stuck in the social media and we don't even think about it.
It's what is Jason saying? We always bang that home. It's like pain always has a message, but people are fearful of allowing that message in because they're scared to heal what needs to be healed to bring in that light. Because people are dark at the moment. There's a consciousness shift from darkness to light at the moment. People's stuff is coming up. I'm seeing it. The people are so scared to release that darkness to bring in the light because they don't want to. They don't want that darkness. They don't want to face that darkness, which is the dark night of the soul.
Yeah, tell us more
And
about the
that's what
dark
I'm
night.
seeing.
Oh yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that there's a big shift. Like I've been kind of
Mm,
like looking at this kind of information for a while, and more and more and more people are talking about it. I'm kind of
mm,
surprised actually. It's multiplying. I guess I'm not that surprised because it's very powerful stuff.
mm.
But it's just like the amount it's been growing is amazing. I'm actually curious. Like I know kind of what the dark night of the soul is, but just for our listeners who might not know what you're talking about when you say that, can you explain for us a little bit?
There'll be some listeners that will listen to this from my circles too that will probably won't know what this is. I've spoken about it in blogs and that, but I can give you my dark night of the soul was basically facing my darkness, accepting what I was doing, forgiving myself, releasing the guilt, the shame, and the fear to allow my to once you release that it's a massive weight off your shoulders. It's to I feel it's to remove the old to bring in the new. So it's old programs, old friendships, old relationships, old old habits, right? Well, you're bringing in the new now. You're stepping into your power. You're attracting the people that are your. I call them the soul family. You're attracting your true friends, your true relationships with people, and you're attracting in healthier, stronger habits. And you're deprogramming yourself. You're turning yourself from a negative person and you're changing your thoughts from negative to positive. And then you start to get it back in your heart and you feel things. You listen to your heart. What everyone says that. Listen to your heart. Well, I feel that not many people are listening to their hearts, but their hearts are screaming at them. Mine was. So I listened. That was my dark night of the soul. I don't know where that came from, but
No, I love it. That was perfectly explained, and
yeah.
I totally, completely agree with it. We got to like let go of that old to let go of like or bring in the new because some people are like, well, I want this, but I'm not willing to give up all of these other things that I was doing before. Like they want to start
Oh,
eating
yeah.
healthier or lose that weight. But they're like,
Yeah.
I'm not willing to give up the junk food. I'm not willing to give up the binge watching Netflix all night. I'm not willing to give
Yeah.
all these things. And it's like, well, if you're not willing to give that up,
I just feel people are scared to bring in that voice because that voice is telling them to change. People don't want to change at the moment. I feel they're going to be forced to change from that darkness to light, but people don't want to change. They're scared of facing themselves. That's what I'm seeing in my backyard at the moment. That's just an Australian slang for my country, my yeah, for people that don't understand what I meant by my backyard.
oh yeah, thanks for explaining that because I'm sure some people probably thought that. But yeah,
Literally my backyard.
I really completely agree with you. Now, you also mentioned like the negative thinking. How big of a
Yeah.
part did that play in your self-sabotage story? I know for me, like it was
Well, look what
one
you've
of
written.
the major parts. Yeah.
This is beautiful. Look what you've written right behind you.
Hmm.
I didn't feel I was enough. I didn't feel I was worthy of love. I didn't feel I was worthy of of writing a book. Like as a kid, all I wanted to do was write. I stopped doing that. I didn't feel I was worthy. I didn't feel I was enough. I didn't feel like I was good enough. I always knew I was, but it was that subconscious programming. No, you need to stay down, stay down here with the rest of them. I'm not doing that anymore. I am worthy. I am enough. I am strong. I am worthy of love. I am worthy of being a writer and an author. I can do these things. We can all do these things. But people are stuck in their, Jason calls it stinking thinking. It's like, you're not going to rise up. You aren't worthy. I see it all the time. I feel people out there hate themselves, or they hate the things that they're doing, and they can't see a way out. Well, people like us are providing them a way out, but they're scared to come to people like us because they're too scared to face themselves. Hopefully this resonates with people and it draws people to us. But the work we are doing is so powerful. We can help you step back into that power. Just allow us to release what you need to release. But we're only educating you on what to do. There's so many tools out there that can help you. Allow us to help you.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like a lot of people have like a bad opinion of like asking for help. They're like, oh, if I have to ask for help, then that means I'm broken. That
Another
means I'm not
program.
good enough. Exactly.
Just
Another
another
program.
program. Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree with that.
Our parents are probably roughly the same age. What's their program? Well, I know that my parents' program is you don't ask for help. Especially the males that are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s now. It's don't ask for help. No, 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 no. Be scared of help.
Mhm.
Don't be scared of help. That's what I'm saying to anyone that's listening to this in their 50s, 60s, and 70s is don't be scared for help, because the consciousness shift that's happening right now, you're either going to allow us to help you or you're going to be forced to because of what's coming in terms of the consciousness shift from darkness to light.
Yeah.
And that's just how I see it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think asking for that help can really expedite our progress.
Mm,
Most of the people I see who are like super successful, or who are like very big, like influencers or things like that, most of them usually have had, some kind of mentor, some kind of coach. They've
yep.
learned from someone,
Yep.
and they were able to expedite their progress and get to where they were, right?
Mm,
Like I
uh,
know for me, like I don't think I would have made the changes if I didn't start working with Jason, or start
same.
working with some other people as well. So
Yep. Same. Yep. I was supposed to do that with Jason. I've met so many cool people on this journey. Like, you really do remove the old and bring in the new, because some of the people I've met, like, it's incredible. And I wouldn't change it for the world either.
yeah. And
Mm.
I got a question for you.
Yep.
So part of self-sabotage, overcoming self-sabotage, is like changing our surroundings, right? Or changing our environment. So I know you were just talking about like you started hanging out with new people. So why do you think that's important? I know the answer, but just for our listeners, like why do you think that's important? Changing, who's around us, and how was that for you? Because a lot of people are like, I had to give up my old friends. I have to make all new friends. Like that's
Yeah.
really scary, right? And they don't want to do that.
Nah.
Um, and did you
I
you think you had to give up all your old friends, or do you think you can kind of hang out with some of them still?
Well, for me, I was pretty brutal with my old friends. I know that some of them will probably listen to this. They probably didn't understand what my beliefs on the world were.
Mhm.
I was very, very forward with them. Um, I didn't hide. I used to hide who I was a little bit because I always knew something was up. And then 2020 started, and I just something inside. But anyway, I was very like I was the only one in the group that wouldn't follow any of those bullshit rules, right? Like the masking and all that crap. Like I didn't follow any of it, and they were probably a bit embarrassed to be around me. And then this time last year, when I cleaned myself up, I know it's brutal, but I only felt like we only ever had watching sport, chasing girls, and gambling in common, and that was really hard for me to face. Like
Mhm.
once I stopped doing those things, some of them may have been supportive, but like I didn't see them because I wasn't in that scene anymore. couple of them were getting married. I didn't get invited to their weddings because I didn't take the juice. Fair enough. I probably blame some of them for stuff, but if they do listen to this, they need to know that I am sorry, but I don't do the things that they do anymore. Yeah, that's pretty much in a nutshell how it went. A couple of them have reached out since, which is great, but I'm not in their scene anymore. Like our views are so different. My consciousness and compared to theirs, or like, yeah, I just, yeah. And the people that I've brought in since, yeah, they're pretty powerful people. I hope one day I can go back to my old friends. I don't know, but I feel like that part of my life's over. Chasing girls, gambling, and drinking.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think it's really important to kind of address that thing's over. Like, I like the way you said it's over, right? Because a lot of people are like, kind of use like the language they use are like, oh, I'm trying not to do that anymore. It's like, well, saying you're trying not to do that means you're still wanting to do that.
Exactly.
Like we got to like that goes back to like just the thinking, right? Saying I don't do that anymore. I'm done with that. That's not me, right? And
Yep.
just making that clean cut and then letting in the new again. So another thing that I know is like big for me was like food, like what I was actually
Yeah.
putting in my body and like the water and just like all the sodas and everything, like the
Yep.
coffee and energy drinks and all that. So how did that play a role in your self-sabotage story as well? Have you changed what you were used to eat?
Yeah. So good question. I was always pretty healthy. I was always like veggies and eating all the good stuff, which I thought was good. Then I realized it was sprayed with herbicides and pesticides, right? But yeah, I was always pretty conscious about what I put in my body. But on weekends, I didn't give two shades of shit. Like I just throw in whatever I could. But I was still conscious though. But I was drinking and I found that when I would have a big weekend, like my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, not only was I physically tired, I was dehydrated. So I felt like I was drinking more water to try and hydrate myself, but I was sort of just like chasing. I was always chasing it. Once I stopped drinking, um, learned that our food was sprayed, so I've started eating more organic food now. Um, I've never felt healthier and comfortable in my own skin. I feel like drinking water is great, but it doesn't hydrate you at a cellular level, right? You eat your apples, you eat your citrus foods, you eat foods that hydrate you at a cellular level too. You drink I have magnesium, drink your kombucha. I don't know whether you Americans do kombucha. I know I brew some at home. Like you're always looking for other ways to hydrate yourself other than just drinking plain water. So since I've started doing that, I've become a lot more, I guess you could say, stronger
Awesome.
mentally too.
That's fantastic. Yeah, because I think the mentally point is a good addition because a lot of people are just like, oh, what I eat just only affects like my body. But like it's all connected, right? It's all
Yeah.
connected. Um, Actually, I'm going to go back to one of the first things you said in the
All right.
story, which was you were talking about working out and how you were actually overdoing it. A lot of people think, oh, working out's a really good thing. That can't possibly be self-sabotage. So it sounded like you were almost like alluding that you were like self-sabotaging your way when you were overworking out. So can
I
you
was.
explain that for us a little bit?
Yeah. So at the start of 2020, I would only drink in a social setting. Hey, excuse me.
No problem.
Bit
Yeah,
tickle in
make
the
sure you're
throat.
hydrated.
Throat COVID. Um. Anyway. Yeah. So at the start of 2020, all of it started. The lockdowns and that. I wasn't drinking at home by myself. I only drink with other people. I was a social drinker label. So then I started exercising, and I would run 13, 14K in a running session. I'd go and ride the bike and ride another 50. So I was doing anywhere between 150 to 170 Ks riding, but then I was running like 20 to 30, maybe even 40 Ks on top of that. So I was escaping what I was escaping and not, and obviously facing the dark night of soul too, but I was escaping through exercise then. I had, I had some shin issues. I had some knee issues. I started having some pain. It was just my body telling me to stop. was also my body telling me just to face the darkness. Yeah.
Wow.
But now
Yeah.
it's like your relationship with food. Like people emotionally eat. It's like, why am I eating that chocolate bar? What's it giving me? Is it giving me a fake happiness? Is it am I sad? Am I stressed? Well, when I would exercise, I was quite often angry and sad, and I used that to try and clear that. But I was like addicted to it. I was addicted to exercise. I didn't think you could ever be addicted to exercise, but I was addicted to exercise.
Mhm.
And then now my relationship with exercise changed. I exercise now because it makes me feel good. And I ride my bike out in nature. I have a mountain bike, and it's the most incredible thing I do. Going for a ride on my bike now is awesome. But that's my
But
relationship. My relationship with it's changed. Like people are emotional eaters. Well, I was an emotional exerciser.
yeah, thanks for explaining that. That's really powerful because a lot of people I know like, oh, working out can't possibly be self-sabotage, but
Yeah, no,
like
it
you
is.
pointed out, like you started having shin issues, you started having those problems, and you were
Yep,
using it to cover up something.
yep,
Um, but that's
yep.
kind of I think a lot of the way it works, like when people are trying to give up addictions without actually addressing like the root cause of the problem, right? They'll give up
Exactly.
one addiction and then they'll just move right on to the other one. So like maybe they'll give up
Yes.
their like their junk food addiction, but they'll go right into like overworking out all the time constantly. And then they
Yep.
got that new addiction formed and it's like, oh, let's
Yep.
switch out this thing for this thing. They're both still self-destructive on some level.
Yep. Yep. Like what's the program, right? It's eat healthy food. That's really, really good. But what are you doing on top of that healthy food? You know? They're like, yeah, I feel that you're not going to reap the benefits of healthy food unless you've faced the other stuff. Like, yeah, it's great you have veggies every night, but are you smoking? Are you drinking? Like, you're not reaping the benefits of that healthy food. So you might as well just go and eat the junk food then. If you're gonna put that in your body, I feel everything is just it's a relationship. It's a relationship with food. It's a relationship with the alcohol. It's a relationship with the smoking and the gambling, the casual sex. Everything's a relationship. Oh, that's all right. It's
Everything's
just
okay, so what was I saying?
no, no. You go.
I was gonna say, yeah, everything's connected. I completely agree with that. Like,
Mm,
because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm eating healthy, so that's good, right? But then they're
yep,
drinking alcohol like every
yep.
night, or like on the weekends
Mm,
they just go out and just destroy their body with a bunch of fast
yeah.
food and like,
But some people know they're doing it. Like I've heard bartenders say, "What's your poison?" They're
oh,
literally they're literally asking you, which poison would you like to poison yourself with today or tonight? I've heard I've heard people openly say, gee, I've had a really healthy week. I've gone to the gym and I've exercised and I eat all these healthy food and I just can't wait to have a couple of beers and just absolutely punish myself. It's like, why are you doing that?
mhm.
How did you feel when you were eating the healthy food and exercising? Then you do the alcohol. Well, how do you feel on that following Sunday or Monday? You're not feeling great, are you? Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So why do you think people are doing that?
People are doing that because they want to fit in. It's the people pleasing. I was the king of people pleasing too. By the way, I just did whatever everyone else was doing. Um, it's people. It's what Jason talks about. It's trying to fit in the herd. It's trying to put on the fake happy mask and pretend to be someone that you're really not. Yeah, some people probably do enjoy drinking every weekend, but are they really enjoying that at a soul level? I don't think so.
Yeah,
I
there's
don't know
more
where
to
that came
life.
from either.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, there's totally more than life than just going out and drinking every night
There
and
is, there
you
is.
know,
Like I find enjoyment now sitting in my room or sitting with all the lights turned off in a nice dark room, stretching and just asking my body, just the positive self dialogue. Well, what came up today? How do I feel during this conversation with this certain person? What triggered me? I quite enjoy just sitting alone in my thoughts and allowing myself to, I guess, to heal. And then I find enjoyment, obviously, with other people walking in nature and kicking the shoes off and going in barefoot. Like there are other things to enjoy in life. I enjoy sitting here doing a podcast with you talking about this stuff. I find this, I love this. I love helping people step into their power. I find enjoyment in that now. So,
It's one of the most um, joyful things I have found as well too, just to be able to help people.
yeah.
Even if it's just like from a podcast, like they get that benefit, or
Mm,
they will make some kind of change. That's why I made this podcast in the first place, so people can really, like relate. And I think a lot of people will be able to relate to your story. And hopefully,
mm.
there's a lot of the younger generation who listens to this because
So do I.
you know addressing the self-sabotage early is so important, right? Like
Yep.
the
And
earlier you start, the better.
I'd love to get you on mine when I start up mine, and you know, I can interview you and we can delve into your story because I feel like your story is pretty awesome too.
Yeah, I'll definitely be glad to hop on and share my story as well.
Yep.
So let's see what else.
You're up.
Do you have any other parts of your story you want to share? Anything else you want to talk about within the story?
Um, I just once I cleaned myself up and got myself stronger, the spiritual presence of my grandfather was the most incredible thing. I always knew he was around. When he passed away, I saw him in the kitchen. I always knew that he was always around, but once I figured out that when I talk to myself in the car and talk to myself on the bike, I'm not talking to myself, I'm talking to him. The coolest thing ever. The presence that he is in my life right now, I wouldn't have I'm actually getting a little bit emotional talking about it because he's sitting here right now next to me. But like to have that presence still,
Mhm.
even though he's crossed over, is the coolest thing. Um, he helped me write that book. He's helped me today. He's helped me all the time. It's just awesome. So
Wow, that's really
yeah,
powerful. Yeah, wow. Thanks for sharing that.
no
So,
worries.
are you very spiritual then, or what does that kind of look
I
like for
feel
you?
like I always was, but I ignored it.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't see things or any. Oh, I did see my grandfather, and I did see someone else in my family that passed on too. But I guess I saw things. My brother was the same. He would see the darkness. Um, I guess I always had the intuition. I always had the feeling if something was wrong, even in a social setting. If something was wrong, I'd just take myself out of it. But once I knew what an intuition was, well, then I'm like, I've got one of those because mine come online strongly at the start of 2021. Now I feel things and I feel yeah it's I was guess I probably always was, but once I opened up to it, like my strength spiritually is so strong. Um, and once I realized who was around me and guiding me, it's not just my grandfather. I had a cousin pass away 2005. He's with me as well, and it's like the cracks in the wall and the cracks at home. It's like that's him. Um, Goosebumps. It came to me that they communicate me through Goosebumps. I trust Goosebumps now. I used to always get them, and I didn't know why. It's like I trust them now. If I've got them right now talking about it, so obviously I'm trusting this. When I get goosebumps, when I ask myself a question and I get goosebumps, it's confirmation. If I'm talking to you like I'm talking to you now, having this deep conversation, can't even talk. I'm just excited. Like when I get goosebumps, it's confirmation, but it's them talking to me as well, telling me that I'm on the right track. I'm okay. I'm loved, I'm safe, all that stuff. It's just confirmation. I trust Goosebumps. I trust whoever else is guiding me. I feel like there's heaps of guides there, but the spiritual stuff is just the most incredible thing, and everyone should be tapping into this because that could be their well, that should be actually that is their way out. Everyone's got
Awesome.
a family member that's passed on in the last 10 years, and they are a big presence in everyone's lives. My grandfather and my cousin are huge for me.
That's an interesting point. I never actually
Mm.
thought about that, but I agree.
I
And
have.
I'll have to keep an eye for it. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Now, do you think those influences, like you being spiritual, do you think that was like increased after you started giving up like the alcohol and stuff? Do you think that was
Yeah.
kind of like sedating your
Yeah,
spirituality?
good question. Yeah, it was. I found that when I was drinking and I guess as Jason calls it, poisoning yourself, I found that I wasn't as strong because this time last year I started opening up to the spiritual stuff, but then I went still drank a bit. So it's like, yeah, I wasn't as strong. Um, you know, they're always trying to dumb. I can't even talk. They're trying to dumb us down, and the way they're doing that is through all this stuff, and that's why it's so readily available. Like during the lockdowns, why did they close down the local fruit and veggie shops and keep the alcohol stores open? Like they were trying to dumb us down because if we tap into that spirit, that's our power, and if we step into that, there's your change. There's your this whole what do you call it? This whole control grid, right, implodes because we are all powerful, and that's our power. Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, I think, well, my belief is that, like we were all born with like the same power inside of us, kind of like you were talking about, and makes us all connected and makes us, we all have the ability to create. That's why we can, manifest things, and we can, that's why affirmations are so powerful, and
yeah,
what we tell
yep,
ourselves is so powerful because we all have that same divine energy or
yep,
spirituality within us, and we all are able to create like I feel like the universe is always working in our favor, but
yep,
most of us are kind of, creating something that we actually don't want with a
yep.
lot of the programming that we have.
The universe is a mirror. If you're negative, you get negativity back. I see it. I can see it as clear as day. If you're negative, if you say you're broke, you say you're weak, that is what you get back. You change that from negative to a positive. You say, I am not broke. I am wealthy. I am strong. I am loving. You get that back. The universe, I believe, is a mirror, and it mirrors back to you your reality, and it starts in your head, and then it comes into your heart. Once you're in your heart, you start getting that back. And it's so powerful. The
Yeah.
universe, you're right, always provides for you. I when I wrote my book, I went through some stuff. Oh, I don't know whether this is any good. I don't know whether this is, all those negative thoughts, right? But then I had an incredible vision of me holding it in my hands, saying, "This is going to be published. This is a really good piece of work that's going to help change a lot of lives." And then once I found that out, she was go time. It was
I
just
love it.
changing that thought. It was just that thought every time. It's like I am worthy. I am enough. Jason says it too, and I say to people too, it's like our thoughts control our reality. And if you change from negative to positive, your life changes. Sometimes instantly. I know mine did.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. For me, like I always told myself I was terrible at public speaking. If you would
Yeah.
ask me like 4 years ago if I was on a podcast, I'm like, no way. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
same here. Same here. If you had asked me 4 years ago that I was going to be talking to a guy from South Carolina on a podcast, I would have said, "You're dreaming. No way." And
Well,
then
hey,
starting my own and writing a book, nah,
yeah, that's
nah.
fantastic that you're writing a book. And so when's that supposed to come out here?
So I sent it to the publisher a few months ago. I've signed the contract now, and things starting to happen. I probably early next year.
Awesome.
Um, yeah. So it's called Breaking Free. It's the teenagers and young adults' guide to identifying their addictions and overcoming them. It's basically our work in book form, and I've sort of touched on why people do what they do, and then my stuff. So I sort of opened myself up to like I what we spoke in the podcast. I opened up about my traumas, why I was afraid of love, all of that stuff, and then at the end I provide some people with some tools that work for me. Um, and then I put in like how we send out our what's it called, the final, I can't even say it, the final summation.
Yep.
I put in some links. I just put in like Paul Check's book, which is in the background there. I love
Yeah.
that book, the Bible of Health, I call it. Just some links to some books, podcasts, some sound healing music, and things that I was like. Caffeine Blues is in there. That book's an incredible read for those that are on coffee. Stephen Leontidise's book about the root cause of cancer, like all those sort of resources at the end to pretty much, it's like our work, but I'm pushing it in text form to try and reach more people.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I've thought about
Mm.
writing a book, but probably have self-sabotaged me a little bit on not getting stuff started.
Well,
So
maybe you have a maybe
yeah.
you should write a book. I'm not going to stop there. I've got a couple of kids' books that I've got in the pipeline too. Um, I'll tell you what I've got in the pipeline. I've got like sort of the like kids trying to recognize their emotions. Like where does that little like where does their anger come from? Like where's it's like helping them step into their like so they can recognize their emotions, where their feelings come from, basically. And then I've got a book on life skills too. I'm going to write a children's book on life skills because I feel like kids out there can't tie their shoes, they can't tie a rope, they can't start a fire, they can't fetch clean water or clean water. They like the life skills from the indoctrination schools, right? Kids don't know how to do these things anymore, and I feel like it's so wrong. Like a
Yeah.
lot of kids, as you said, are stuck inside on their tablets. They're not outside in nature like I used to be a little bit. I am more now, but I used to be outside quite a lot. Kids are inside 24/7 now.
Yeah, especially with the whole COVID thing.
Oh,
Everyone
it's
was all
made them.
inside being scared of,
Yeah,
fresh
it's
air.
like get back outside and get back in touch with life skills again. And I feel like one day, I feel like one day I'm gonna start running some programs on life skills out in the bush again to get kids back out there. Or we call it the bush here, but it's nature really. So, um, yeah, that's my dream to run nature programs for children.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I love that
Mm.
you are working with the youth and targeting them specifically because it's like I said, it's
Yeah,
just so important we address this as soon as possible. Like I
I
feel
agree.
like we should be taught this information like
Yeah, we're not though.
in like high school, middle school, maybe even elementary school. Like I mean, it's
Mm.
literally how like a lot of overcoming self-sabotage, just understanding how your subconscious mind works, how it's
Yep.
influenced, how
Yep.
how we're able to influence it to make it so it works for us.
Mm.
And like how come we're going through all of our school system without understanding like the most powerful part of our brain, like just it blew my mind once I started realizing like I had no idea what the subconscious mind was before I, listened to Jason's work. And then
Mm.
also it was just like, what? Like
Yeah.
this part of your mind exists. And like maybe I have
Yeah.
heard like unconscious mind once before, but I was like, yeah, I didn't even pay attention to it. But like
Yeah.
not in school, not like where I'm actually being, taught about learning and like how to use myself. Like I feel like that's
Yeah.
important.
They promote that they're teaching critical thinking and rational. No, they're not. They're doing the opposite.
Mhm.
They promote what was the other one going to say? Jason says it too. They show you how to write a resume, right? Well, why aren't they showing you how to start your own business and build your own life instead of being a cog in that system? You just what does Jason say? You're like the little hamster wheel, just running the system. Like,
Mhm.
why don't you step off that and build something for yourself? But they don't show you that in the schools because they want you part of that system.
I completely agree with that. Like you give an answer that might not like that's technically right, but you know they
Yeah.
say you're wrong because it's not the answer that they wanted, right?
What
It's
else are
not.
they doing? They're grading children. Like
Mhm.
they're grading you. Here in Australia, we do this thing called the NAPLAN test, which is grades 3, 5, year 7, and year 9 kids take this test nationally, right? And you're going up against everyone else in the entire country. And then they're saying, based on your results, you're below the national standard or whatever bullshit
Wow.
they steam with. How do you think kids feel when they bring home their big envelope and they're all excited because they're being compared with everyone else in the country, and then they go, "I'm below the national standard." Like, what even is the national standard? Like when I was a kid, I did it too, but I didn't care where I was, where I fit into that thing. I knew that I didn't want to be compared to anyone else. It's like they're destroying your confidence. And then the ones that get below the above the average, well then They're the what are they labeled as? They're labeled as the smart kid. Everyone needs to be like the smart kid. Well, what if that kid that got below the average was actually the smart kid? You know,
Yeah. And now he has a new belief that saying he's
that
not as
he's
good as
not
everyone
smart,
else.
and there's
Yep.
his belief, there's his program. I'm not worthy. I'm not enough. I don't fit the national. I'm below the standard. So how's he going to step or she going to step into their power? They're not going to be able to because their self confidence is shot right there in an instant. And the people that rule us know that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And it's been a fantastic podcast. So what we'll probably do to just wrap it up, like what
Yep.
if you want to leave like the listeners with something that they want like a main takeaway, what would you want them to remember from this podcast?
If you're suffering, if you're in pain, if you're depressed, if you're anxious, if you're angry, if you're frustrated, if you're addicted, if you're broke, there is always a way out. The way out is not continuing to do what you're doing. The way out is to seek and ask for help from people like us because we have lived that life. We've lived the ups, we've lived the downs, the emotional roller coaster of the human experience on earth. We have lived it. We know it. We understand it. If you're suffering, come and I have heaps of free programs available. I can have a free Zoom chat just like this, and you can just air it out. We don't have to fill out a questionnaire. You can just ask me, hey, this is what I've got going on. How can you help me? It's not very hard. We're all here for a reason. We're all here to step into our power. Let's clean up and let's go. That's how I'll finish.
Love it. Fantastic. So if people can where can people find, I'll put your like links down below in the description,
Yep.
but where can they find you and find your work?
They can find my work. I've got a Facebook page, Teens, Young Adults Overcome Self-Sabotage. I feel like it's the only page covering teens and young adults, so it won't be hard to find. I've got a Telegram channel. I've got a website, teenageselfsabotage.com. I've got an email address, which I'll just chuck in the bottom in the links. My Instagram's what is it? I think it's Nathan J 94 underscore. Yeah, I post daily. I've got blogs on my website. I've written blogs about the influences of social media, TV, people pleasing. I wrote a blog about which we talked about why I was afraid and scared of love. Everything's there. Yeah, just jump on, have a look, reach out,
Yeah.
just reach out.
Yeah, make sure
Yeah,
you guys go check out his content. It is really good content. I've checked out a lot of it, and I was like really impressed with what I saw. So,
thank you.
yeah. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's
No
really
worries.
been
Thanks
a
for having me.
pleasure. And yeah, we'll keep in touch. Maybe
Yeah, we
we'll
will.
hop on your podcast when you start that up. And thanks again,
Absolutely.
Nathan.
No worries.
All right, bye.
Bye.